Welcome to the Hendry County School Board meeting for September 5th here in Clewiston. If you would please stand and join us with the invocation and pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Superintendent, I see that we have some recognitions this evening.
We do have some recognitions this evening, and the very first one that we're going to do embodies the whole reason that we're here and that we're a board and we're having these meetings and we do what we do every single day. Getting to see the students and their achievements and their accomplishments and their beautiful faces is truly the reason that we all get out of bed and love our jobs and love Hendry County Schools. So in order to properly recognize the students this evening, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sanchez, the awesome principal for the West Side Warriors. Any Warriors there?
Miss Massey's going to start us off and just tell a little bit why we're here today. So this past year, we took the first year of the new assessment, the Florida Assessment of Student Thinking, and we had some students that really went above and beyond, and we would like to congratulate them on their accomplishments. We do have quite a few that aren't with us tonight, but if it's all right with you guys, I would still like to say their name and give them a round of applause in case they're watching at home. So on the levels, you can have from a level 1 to a level 5 being the highest. And these students scored a level 5 in both their reading subject area and their math. So we have Jesus Ortega, Bradley Holmes, Aaron Leitner, Jonathan Mendez Hall, Nicole Rago, Antonella Pera, and Gregory Ramirez. And then we had two students get a level 5 in reading and science. Melanie, so we'll give her a round of applause. And then we had two students get a level 5 on math and science, and that was Dario Escoto and Matthew McGinnis. I said your name in between Aaron and Jonathan, but I'll say it again. Jonathan Mendez Hall. So we are really proud of these students. They worked really hard, especially being the first year. They weren't sure exactly what they would see on the test. Alright, so we could give them one more round of applause.
Y'all want to stand?
Can I get a picture?
Yeah.
Nice.
We also have one student that's not here tonight, but her name is Lillian Kessler, and she made a perfect score on her math test. Congratulations to all of our West Side students for working so hard. We're super proud of them, and we can't wait to see what happens next year.
And you want to stay up for our next
Yeah, I'll stay
presentation?
up for our next time.
It's always a bittersweet time when we have our employees that we cherish and we love, and many of them have been with us a very, very long time. And we wish them well as they get to the point in life where they can retire and go enjoy other things. And so with that in mind, I'll let Ms. Sanchez take it from here. So we can.
Come on, Miss Dixon, come on up here. It's an honor tonight to speak about Ms. Ibsen. She's the first smile you see in the morning and always willing to help out in any way. When you pull up to the school bright and early every morning, someone always meets you there. Oh, Brenda. Brenda arrived every morning before anyone else had a chance to. She would unlock the front office, turn all the lights, and make sure everything was ready for the day. She's the first person you see when you walk into the school, and she is sure that she knew all of our parents. When kids would come in late, she would greet them with a smile and tell them how happy she was to see them and hurry them on to class. When parents called, she knew just what to say to calm them down and ensure that their babies are okay. Brenda has been a part of Westside for 30 years. She's been a blessing to our tribe and will always be. Because once a warrior, always a warrior. Thank you, Ms. Ibsen, for your service to Westside.
And I've said it a million times, and I'll say it again. You know, a lot of times we think about schools, it's easy to go to, you think about the teachers and the students. It takes everyone to make a school happen. It takes the bus drivers, the custodians, the cafeteria workers to make everything a success. Ms. Ibsen is no excuse. She's always there. It's her professionalism, her smile, the stableness that she brings that adds to the quality of the students' education and the happiness of parents as they come in now. So with that in mind, we would like to present her with this certificate of recognition that says, in sincere appreciation for a graduate of 30 years of dedicated service, your wisdom, commitment to excellence, and have inspired many and will be remembered for the years to come. We wish you good health, happiness, and continued success in your retirement. Congratulations. So for the first time in 2.5 years that I've been doing this so far, Ms. Ibsen was the first one that said, "I'm not going to say anything." Very clear about that. So that's fine. You don't have to. So along the same lines, we have another retiree, and I'll let Ms. Rosa Perez come up and lead us in this one.
So Linda?
Yeah.
What can I say? Erlinda is full of life, and she is missed already. And my girls over there can tell you that this is so true. She was a little staple over there at CMS. I mean, what did she do? Home visits to any kid, not just our kids, right? Our ELLs and migrants that we're kind of over, but all the kids.
Yes.
Whatever they needed her to do, she did.
Wow.
She did. She translated. She was calling discipline meetings, translating. She would call the parents in and have conversations with them about, what needed to be done for their child to be successful. I mean, she would go out and on Saturdays and recruit for our migrant numbers for the OSY. Right? She would give English classes to these OSY gentlemen, young guys that were from 17 to 21 years old that couldn't go to school on the weekends. She would take time out and give them English classes. So what can I say? But you're missed. She's been retired already for about 2 months. But believe it or not, she even said, when is CMS going to have their night over there? Because I'm going to go.
So one of the first events that I got invited to was the parent night at CMS. And so Miss Erlinda came out, and I know I'm not going to get the vernaculars right, but dressed in the traditional dress from Nicaragua, and then she led a dance. This lady can dance. and to do that in front of the parents and students and lead the dance, they had students dancing. This is someone who cares about what they do in education of the students and the parents and the community, and we're eternally grateful for that. So, Ms. Erlinda, your certificate says, in sincere appreciation appreciation granted for 21 years of dedicated service. Your wisdom, commitment, excellence, and education have inspired and will be remembered for many years to come. We wish you good health, happiness, and continued success in your retirement. Congratulations.
Thank you for your service.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Yes, those of you who want to stay, you are more than welcome, but if you would like to leave, now's a really great time. Except for you. Sheriff, you must stay. Thank you, West Side. Thank you, federal programs. Yeah. Amazing. All right. At this time, Mr. Superintendent, do we have any presentations?
Yes, we do. I'll let them clear there just a second there. We are blessed in this community to have a sheriff's department and a sheriff who is very committed to the safety of our community as well as our schools. I believe Sheriff Wooden was the first in the state, along with the school system, to institute the Guardian program, and he supports it to this day and makes sure that we have a very robust program that people from not only the state but across the nation call us and get information and contacts and guidance on how to set theirs up. And anytime we've called for support, the sheriff and his wonderful staff, they always do a great job at, no matter if it's making sure that we're drilling correctly or responding to calls that need to be there. We are very grateful for Sheriff Wooden and his staff and all that they do to keep us safe. And tonight, Sheriff Wooden's going to share with us an opportunity that he is bringing to Hendry County to extend his span a little bit more in keeping our students safe. And so with that in mind, I will let Sheriff Wooden talk to us and share and introduce his guest, and they're going to bring forth some new information.
Thank you. Work on the spread out to you all. Yes, sir. I have these are some statistics from the program that we're about to implement, and see if I can get this passed out. Let me make sure I have it right.
Yeah.
I think, do we have enough?
I've actually, yes, sir. We pass it out.
Please, yeah, it's not.
It's all.
Yes, sir. All right, so first of all, I want to thank y'all for allowing me to speak here tonight. As you all know, we have and I say we in Hendry County and across the nation, we have a severe problem with school zones and speed. And it's a constant battle that we're fighting. We try to keep the deputies out there in the mornings and evenings, but sometimes that's not possible. Unfortunately, if people do not see the marked unit out there, they just fly through, and sometimes they see it and they fly through anyway. This is very, very, very dangerous. We've had several close calls, actually had kids hit years in the past in my tenure. I had the honor to be introduced to Richard Graham from Blue Line Solutions, and he has a company that is on the forefront of this program. And what it is recently legislation has changed some laws that allows us to use speed cameras to enforce laws in traffic in school zones only. And so I was very interested when I met him up at the last conference, and I started talking to him, and it really got my attention. I said, this is amazing. And the benefits of it, the safety aspect of it, I'm telling you, I believe 100% of it will stop 95 to 99% of the speed. The second thing is there is a money value to this that will help out Hendry County. You know, people are going to be stupid, they're going to have to pay for it. With that, I'd like to introduce Richard Graham from Blue Line Solutions, who's going to talk about some numbers and how this program works in detail and how the enforcement is taken and whatnot. And these are 4 schools that you have in front of you. He's coming back next week to put out the test cameras, so to speak. They call them armadillos in Clewiston side. But if you look at those numbers, you'll see we have a big problem with speeders in school zones. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good evening, Commission. I'm used to standing in front of commissions. My name is Richard Rand. I'm a retired Chief of Police from North Miami Beach. I served for 26 years in the city of Miami-Dade County, so I'm very familiar with a lot of school zones. We had a 165-man department that was the chief over, So I was did robbery, homicide for much of my career. So I'm very familiar with South Florida. Retired last year, and I went back to work, right? My kids won't let me stay home. So just a little bit about the company. It's a company called Blue Line Solutions. We're out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. As the sheriff said, and Sheriff, thank you very much for inviting me, and I have to compliment you. I've been in law enforcement half of my life. I know I don't look that old, but I was highly impressed with your sheriff, with his staff, and this is actually the first county where I did speed studies. And I came over here, I've been over here I think 5 times. Never been over to Hendry County, but every time I come over, it's such a pleasure. You have a beautiful city, the schools are awesome, I've met a lot of great folks. You know, the staff has been nothing but professional, very transparent, very forward-looking agency, just highly impressed. And I've seen a lot of agencies in my career. So Blue Line Solutions, we're out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Governor DeSantis signed a new law in as of July 1st, allowing sheriff departments and municipal police departments to put automated speed enforcement in school zones. So what we do as a company is I go to conferences, I reach out to sheriffs, I reach out to the chiefs of police. Currently I'm working with Miami-Dade County. We have 600 schools in Miami-Dade County, the Broward Sheriff's Office. There's 37 municipalities in Dade County. So we're working with the majority of them right now doing speed studies, as well as Hendry County. We're trying to get into Okeechobee County. I'm going to talk to the chief about that tonight, but just a little bit about what we're doing. It's new in the state of Florida. We are in 11 states currently, where we have multiple schools with cameras. And we guarantee that once we implement our program, you're going to see a 90% reduction in speeding in your school zones. And as the sheriff said, you know, Florida is the #2 state in the country for pedestrian fatalities. A lot of our children walking to and from school on their skateboards, walking in the morning. A lot of them are on their phones, especially in the middle schools and high schools, not paying attention. Some of these drivers, as you see me go over some of these numbers, are going to shock you. So what our company does is we come into the city, we look at the school zones, we look for several different things. We look at all the signs in the school zones to make sure that they're all properly displayed. We look to see if there's flashers in the school zones. We look to see if the times are consistent with what time school is. Because a lot of the time the commission, the board chairman, will change school times, but the signs aren't updated. So the signs don't reflect the proper school times when the kids are going to school. We look at that and we look at, make sure that there's enough markings. And Blue Line Solution comes in and redoes all of that if need be. In other words, we put up new signs, we put up new flashers, we put up speed boards. Those radar boards that say speed limit 15, your speed 35, we put big ones up on each side of the school zone. We put up brand new flashers throughout the whole school zone. Coming in both sides, if it's a 4-lane school, we do all four corners of the school. What's different about our company, there's other companies out there that do this, but what's really great about this company is that the cost to Hendry County and any police department is 0. As I stand here, for the record, your city, your county will never write this company a check. Never. We maintain the equipment 100%. We install the equipment 100%. This program is 100% funded by the offender. State legislation says that the offender going through the speed zone at 10 miles an hour over the speed limit gets a $100 citation in the mail. And I can explain a little bit about how that works. So in Chattanooga, Tennessee, we have a group of people, some processors. Let me back up. So we come in, we look at the school zone, we do a speed study, which is what I put in front of you. I came out here 2 weeks ago, and I put up little boxes. They're called armadillos. And what they do is they measure how many cars go through the school zone and at what times, and they record the speeds. And I'll go through these with you in a second. I take those armadillos down as the chief asked me to be here tonight to provide a little bit of insight as to what we saw in 4 of the schools in Hendry County. And the numbers are high. You know, I'll go through them with you in a second. But just to explain a little bit more about the program. So what we do is after we do these speed studies, we sit down, we speak to you folks, we speak to the commission, the sheriff, and the residents, and we get political buy-in. Because we need people to buy into this program. It doesn't work unless people believe in this. And our main goal at Blue Line Solutions is to change drivers' behaviors. We're not driven by the stock market, like some of these other companies. These red light camera folks, I don't like red light cameras. I never did as a chief of police. They caused me a headache, and I got rid of them. And I think as of next year, from what I'm hearing, the state legislature is going to throw them out too, because they're a nightmare. Anybody that doesn't have them, some cities like them, but they're revenue driven. We're not revenue driven. We don't believe in that. What we believe in is changing driver behavior. I've picked up enough bodies in my life off the ground to want to change driver behavior. I'm retired, and I do this because I believe in the mission of this company, and that's to protect our children. I worked some pretty serious accidents in school zones where children were hit by cars. You know, the thing is children don't get hit by cars just because it's school time. It could be on the way home from school, it could be late at night. So what we address is the behavior of drivers. The way the program works is once we do this speed study, we do a 30-day PI&E, Public Information and Education. We have PIOs registered, retired deputies from Tennessee. There's 106 of us in the company, 28% of us are retired law enforcement. Our PIOs, most of our guys are traffic homicide, so we work traffic cases. We come into the city, we do a big PI&E campaign. We send out flyers with the PIOs, through the police department, through the school board. Hey, this is what's coming. Auto speed enforcement in your school zones. Parents, slow down. We do this for 30 days. We send it out. Everybody knows what's coming before the first camera's put up. For the first 30 days of the program, we put cameras up once everything's in place, and we do a 30-day warning period where we send out warning tickets. After each week of that warning period, we do another speed study. And after that first week, I can guarantee you're going to see a 60 to 70% decrease in speeding in your school zones. We haven't written one ticket yet, except for a warning, right? Not one revenue has been taken from this program at this point. We then do another big push with public information. Hey students, hey parents, your kids are 70% safer walking to school because of this program. That goes on for a month. After that month is up, the program kicks in, we start to issue citations. State legislation says that the citation can be $100. 60 of that $100 goes to the sheriff's department. We take out, Blue Line Solutions takes out a processing fee of $25 from that 60. So in essence, they get $35 on each citation. $5 goes to the crossing guards for retention and training. $12 goes to the school board on every citation. We did that because we know that in the big counties, Dade County, Broward County, they have huge school boards. And obviously the school boards won't want to do anything unless they're in partnership with the local sheriffs or the police departments. And then there's taxes. I think $3 goes to the state and $5 or so goes to MDOE. And I gave the sheriff a book that breaks it all down. On the 15th, between the 15th and the 30th of every month, Blue Line Solutions will process all of those citations, send them to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office will then have a person that reviews them and either spoils them or approves them. What do I mean by that? When the camera takes a picture of somebody's license plate, we have 25 process servers. They look at the tag and they look at the vehicle. The tag matches the vehicle and they're breaking the law, it gets approved on our end. If it's a trailer pulling lawn equipment, we spoil that ticket. That's no good because 90% of the time those trailers don't belong to that vehicle. If it's a semi-tractor trailer, we spoil that ticket because usually the cab doesn't belong to the tractor. Those are the kind of things that end up in court, and you have to have a magistrate to go through them, so we spoil those tickets. All of this information is sent to us through NLITs and CJIS, and we're FCIC, NCIC, and NLIT certified. The only company that is NLIT certified, which means everything that we do goes through the government. All of our databases and everything is NLIT certified. We then send the information to the sheriff's office once we're done with all the citations that have been approved. They verify what they see. There are certain reasons at that end that they could spoil the ticket or void the ticket. You know, that's up to the sheriff's department, their policies and procedures. And then there's always audits that are always done on all of these, and we take care of all of that. So the company Blue Line Solutions takes care of the processing, sending of the citations to the sheriff's office to be approved, spoiled, or voided. We, Blue Line Solutions, mails out the citations. We do collections on the citations if it's not paid within 30 days. It then goes to collections in the second half of that, 60 days. After that, we're currently working with the state to turn it into a uniform traffic citation, which then we go after the person's driver's license if it's not paid for. We do all of that. We set up all of the court dates. The only thing that the sheriff's office has to do is appoint one person to go through the citations to verify that they're good or bad. And then there has to be a city attorney, county attorney, to be a magistrate over the hearings if somebody wants to fight the cases. But we do the docket for that. We set up the appointments for that. We work with your schedule, and all of that is done through Blue Line. Just needs the person that verifies the tickets and whoever the city or county appoints to review the citation. So if you have any questions, I'll answer those questions on that before I go through this. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you said that the tickets that get thrown out typically are off of a trailer.
Trailer,
Some sort.
lawn equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I was thinking that semi trucks, most of the tags have to be on the front because of that very reason. Am I wrong with that?
Yeah.
So do you guys have cameras facing front of vehicles?
We do not take pictures of the drivers per state statute.
No, not the driver, but like the front bumpers, the front end of the cars. You
No.
can't do that?
We do not do that.
I mean, but is it,
So how do you know who's driving the vehicle? Let's
Okay.
say my husband Mario Andretti is the one flying through.
So good question. So let's say that my wife was driving my car that day and she got a ticket. And I get the ticket in my name because the car's registered to me. Either I throw my wife under the bus and transfer to her name that she was driving the car that day, or I become a good husband and I pay the $100 citation and keep my mouth quiet, right? So there's a form on our website where you can go on and you can fill out and do a transfer of liability. So if you loan your car to somebody, you can transfer that liability to that other person. You fill out the form and then we send that other person a citation. And that's what's good about this program is that if you go to court and the attorney or the magistrate says to you, so ma'am, that's your vehicle, who was driving it that day? You're gonna either say my husband or you're gonna say, I'll pay for it. You know, so that's the way that that program works, and that comes up all the time. What if I wasn't driving my car that day? Well, who was driving our car? I mean, so, but we don't see a lot of those. I can tell you 90% of the people that we've dealt with have paid these citations.
Oh, I love the program. I think
It's awesome.
Now, what about company vehicles?
Company vehicles,
It'll go, like I have a fleet of trucks, company trucks, and I switch guys out all the time in different vehicles.
so the citation will go to your company, and then I guess you'll figure out who was driving the vehicle that day.
Yeah, if I don't have a log of that, then I just gotta eat it.
Yes.
Very good law.
Unless you're really good friends with the sheriff, and then that's where the spoil comes in, but.
Well, you better get a lot of those transfers.
Well, like with semis and trailers and such, I know when I taught it up the Grove, and you remember, I called you about this, we would have, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they would come off the bridge and come around. So has that ceased?
Fix that, yeah.
Okay. Now what about on Cowboy Way? And like for the middle school, the high school, and LES, do we have a lot of semi-traffic still going through there to
Yeah.
bypass 80? So,
Yeah.
and I hate to say it, but a lot of them are speeding.
Tractor trailers?
But here's the thing I want to say about that. Now, the goal here is to slow people down in
Right.
school zone. Now, typically in the mornings, most of the school zones, there's a lot of cars in there, everybody's going through at the same time. So if people who are driving normal vehicles, after time goes on, gets the word out that, hey, you're going to get fined, they're going to be slowing down. Those semis that are behind them have to slow down because they can't run over them. So it'll have a domino effect that way as well.
A lot of the things that I see when I went through Hendry County was a lot of the school zones are poorly marked. And this is common throughout all of Florida. And that's where the company comes in, is that we come in and put infrastructure in at no cost to you at all. And we put up new signs, new flashers. We actually put fin modules in the flashers. Because the number one thing that people fight tickets for is they say, you drive through a school zone and you're driving and it says, school zone when flashing. Well, what if there was a storm and the power was out? It's not flashing. Can you give me a ticket in that school zone? No. Because I'm going to come to court and I'm going to say the flashers weren't flashing. And they're going to say, officer, were the flashers flashing? I don't know. Dismissed. We put a fin module in the flashers which actually record every single flash. And at the end of the month, we send the sheriff a packet with 5 still shots of the vehicle, 5 still shots of the tag, 5 still shots of every different light, dark, midday, a rainy day, and then we also send a video if they want to watch it. Somebody wants to watch the video of them speeding through a school zone. And then the other part of this is that you have to be going 11 miles an hour over the speed limit, right? So if the speed limit's 15 in a school zone, you're not going to get popped unless you're doing 26. And I don't know about you guys, but if you're doing 26 in a school zone, when my kids go into school, you need a ticket.
Most of ours are 20, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 20, 15, and some of them are 15 and 20, yes, sir.
I got a question. So right now I see signs, school zone, 7 o'clock in the morning until 9, and then 2:30 till 4. So you're gonna run it all day now?
Well, that's up to the sheriff. So the law states specifically is you can run it a half hour before school starts. Because if school starts at 7:30, I'm gonna send my kid to school at 7 so they're on time if they're biking or walking, right? So we can run it a half hour before and a half hour after. However, if the sheriff decides that he wants to run this program from say 9:30 to 2:30, he could run the program. But I can tell you right now, looking at these numbers from the schools that I looked at, there's no problem speeding when it's not school zone. All of your speeding is during school times, which is very common because the speed limit rises to 40, goes up to 45.
But you can only enforce during the times that the sign says, right?
You can enforce, so if you do the program from say 7:30 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you can enforce all day long. So if the speed limit's 45 at noon and somebody's doing 56, we can enforce that and give them the citation.
Even though it's not, but that's, okay, so how does legislation look at that?
Well, FDOT, so that's another good question. FDOT is currently writing the rules and regulations. They have until the end of this year to write those rules and regulations. But state statute does say that this can be enforced from a half hour before school starts until a half hour after school starts.
So it can go all day?
It can go all day.
So does the sign have to dictate though? At 9 o'clock, the speed limit goes to 45 and then you get ticketed after that, or?
No, so if the sign says, most of your signs say 7:30, so let's just look, for example, at LaBelle Elementary. I'm sure if you all have, with the letters up in the top, right underneath the blue line, LaBelle Elementary.
Yep.
So,
7 to 9:30.
dates of study, Friday, August 25th, 7 to 9:30, the sign says. 9:30 to 2:30 is not on the sign. That's outside of the school speed limit, right? You got it?
Yep.
And then 2:30 to 4.
Okay.
So the sign would just say school zone, 7 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., right? Monday through Friday.
Right.
And then Monday through Friday, will say 2:30 to 4. Some schools are except for Wednesday because they have an early release day. I don't know if you have that here in Hendry County, but Dane County has it. Sometimes it's 2:15. Sometimes the high school is next to the middle school and the times are different. So we try to work with the school board to make that all consistent so that everybody knows that this is a school zone and you slow down. So just looking at some of these numbers, and I'll go over them with you. If you look on Friday, August 25th, there was 1,189 vehicles that went through the school zone between 7 and 9:30. 432 of those vehicles were going 10 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. So 432 of those vehicles were going 26 miles an hour in a 15-mile-an-hour school zone. That's a big number. From 9:30 to 2, like I said, you had 2,526 vehicles go through that same school zone, which is LaBelle Elementary School. You only had 5 speeders because from 9:30 to 2:30, the speed limit was 45. So in order to break that, you had to go 11 over. It's actually, the loss is 10 over, but it's 11 miles and over. 11 is when you get popped, 11 over. So there was 5 speeders that were going 11, so 56 miles an hour. And you can see those numbers are very small compared to the other numbers. And then if you go in the afternoon from 2:30 to 4 o'clock at LaBelle Elementary, there were 816 vehicles that went past the speed counter. 285 of them were speeding, going over 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. So they had to at least be doing 26 miles an hour in a school zone. You hit a kid at 26 miles an hour, those are high numbers. And you can keep going down the 28th, and I won't go over each one. You had 1,328 cars go through. You had 524 speeding. Most of these are 30, and you go anywhere between 36 and even some are 60% in the afternoon. So 60% of the cars that went through the school zone at LaBelle Elementary from 2:30 to 4 in the afternoon, 444 of them were speeding at a 735.
I'd be curious to know, so let's say locals know when school actually starts. Let's say that light started flashing at 7:30 and school starts at 8:30. Just play with numbers. So the 8:30 to 9:30, the people, oh, the kids are inside. Are they speeding more towards the end of the flashing light time?
That's a really good question. I don't have specifics. I can just tell you between 7:30 and 9:30.
It would be interesting to know if people learn that pattern and think,
Sure.
well, the kids are safe. There's no cop here. The SRO's inside.
Another
I should do it.
What another good thing about this,
Crossing guard, you mentioned funding for crossing guards. How do you work that? How long are they going to be there from 7:30 to 8:30 and then 2:30 to 4 o'clock?
well, so the sheriff's department dictates the hours of the crossing guard. We supplement through the citations, $5 per citation for the crossing guards. So the sheriff's office will get that check. So if you write 100 citations for that week, and I'm just coming up with a wrong number, $500 would go to the sheriff's office for that week for funding for the crossing guards. So it's $5 a citation. That's for training, for retention.
No, I think it's great. My point is, when the crossing guard is there, I think people go slow. I'm just not sure the crossing guard's there from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. If so, when somebody goes zooming by, absolutely, should they get a ticket? Yeah. Well, my point is, that crossing guard sort of tones that when I drive through, the crossing guard is there. I mean, people pay attention.
Or the SRO, the lights.
Yeah.
Or the SRO, of course,
And the thing about this too is with the SROs, from my experience, right? I wanted my SROs really in my school to be present, to be seen. God forbid something happens to the SROs down the street directing traffic. It's going to take, that many seconds. I was on the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas call. It was horrific, So I can tell you that time is of the essence. This program is an extension of the sheriff's office because we do the traffic enforcement here. And like I said, I can guarantee you, before we even give out one citation, you're going to see a 70% decrease in speed. Absolutely, no question about it. So that's the elementary school. I won't go through all of these, and you can just go through them if you want. We also did Up the Grove Elementary School, and just for an example, we did the side street. That was Main Street and what's the cross street?
Fraser Avenue.
Is it Fraser Avenue? It's so it was Main Street. There's a parking lot. I think there was a church right there. That's
Speed bumps.
Yes. So on the 25th, on August 25th, at 7 to 8:30 in the morning, there were 366 vehicles that traveled down that road, and 171 of them were going 11 over the speed in that residential with the speed bumps. And that's one school. I can tell you that's one school that's well marked. That school is well marked. I remember that school because I took pictures of it and said, man, this school's really, but that's pretty high. And then you can see again, from 8:30 to 2:15, you had one speeder. But again, it went up to 45 miles an hour, so they had to be really booking it down that road to get paid. 2:15 to 4:30 in the afternoon, you had 491 vehicles go up that street or down that street. You had 272 speeding. 55% of the cars were speeding in the afternoon.
And what about the closed-in schools?
So that's the sheriff just asked me about that today. I'm the one that actually puts up the armadillos. So I'll be coming back. I wanted to get these studies done, prepared for you guys tonight, just so you can get a little idea of what we do. And I'll be coming back next week to put up armadillos in the closed-in schools. Right now, I have a bunch up in Dade County. I'll pull those down probably at the end of next week, depending on what happens with this storm. We keep a close eye on these storms. Another thing speaking of that is we take a copy of the school board's calendar, okay? So if there's no teacher work day, if there's an early release day, we do not issue citations on those days. If the sheriff or his person calls me and says, hey, Rich, we, God forbid, had an incident at a school and we had to let the school go home at noon, we void all those tickets for that day. We do not issue citations for that day. We also allow 3 days before we mail the citations out once the sheriff approves them. Because Johnny's mother could call and say, Sheriff, my daughter had a broken arm and I had to pick her up and rush her to the emergency room. I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty plausible excuse, as long as you give me a doctor's note. So those kind of things we take into account and we monitor.
So if the sheriff's office throws out 6 tickets, what happens to them?
Okay, so under the 119 Florida state statute, because those are sent to the sheriff's office through inlets, through a secured web database, if he spoils those tickets before they're approved, they're not considered public record. Okay? They are not part of 119. Once they approve those citations and they go into the next step of the process where we mail them out, then your local news reporter can come running into the station and say, I want to know how many citations your city attorney got and why were they all voided? It happens. Okay. My mayor, red light cameras, were one of those things, and it happens. But again, it becomes a 119, a good 119 records request once it's mailed out. Before all of that, it's not public record.
So he can spoil anything he wanted to.
Yes.
What do you get that time?
At that point, he can.
He has a fleet.
Once it's approved, if the sheriff gets a call and he says, hey, listen, whatever the story is, and he goes back in and has one of his folks voided, there has to be a reason attached to that void.
Okay.
Not because it's your.
Not just because, hey,
Yeah.
he's buddies, that was his cousin.
And that's fine if that's the sheriff's prerogative. He's got that right. In the state of Florida, it's the officer's discretion. You have discretionary rights. So if that discretion is is warranted by the officer, then it's warranted, as long as they put a reason in there. Once the 119 public records request comes through, we get it, and we do that through the sheriff's office.
Rich, we had spoke at our last meeting, and I was talking to Amanda here earlier, and I mentioned it, but you mentioned that the state was looking at doing this on school buses.
Yeah, so Okeechobee County, so you know, and I just got word today, is there is a company out there that is putting cameras on the arms of school buses. So that if somebody goes around the school bus, that camera catches that vehicle and they get a citation as well.
Now, is that changed through legislation, or is that just a witness that we can write a statute, citation?
It'll be under the same rules and regulations as this program.
Okay.
By camera.
Yeah.
And that's something that Blue Line Solutions hasn't gotten into, but we're looking at it very closely.
Yeah, because that's a big problem.
Yeah.
Huge problem. I'd like to talk about.
Sure, 100%. The other thing too, the sheriff brought up with me, and I won't keep, I know everybody wants to get out of here, but the sheriff has done a phenomenal job, so you know, with ALPRs, automatic license plate readers. I think you have 30 of them in the county, which is tremendous. Those things are incredible. We just had a carjacking last night, an ALPR picked it up, the officers ended up shooting. I mean, it was a mess. I'm not even the chief and I knew about it, because I put up the ALPRs, and those things are awesome. Anyway, he deals with a company by the name of Flock, which is a great company. They have a huge database. We just are getting ready to enter into an agreement with them, like I told you, so that we will be able to share our information. The other part of this program, and then I'll sit down, because it's very exciting, is that every speed camera we put up an ALPR camera above it. So we put up a speed camera, and then we put up an ALPR camera. Why? Because Florida state statute says that those speed cameras cannot be used for investigative reasons. So if there's a homicide, if there's a domestic violence, if there's a robbery, and the subject vehicle flees through that school zone, we can't use that red light camera to catch that car, per legislative statute.
And those block cameras, you know, they let us know stolen vehicles, they let us know if somebody's kidnapped, we have a suspect vehicle,
Amber alerts.
silver alerts, amber alerts, they're amazing.
So for no charge, we give you an ALPR camera right above that school zone camera. No charge. 100% maintained by Blue Line Solutions.
Rich,
Yes.
what other districts and counties are in Florida are you currently working with?
So we have 4 sales reps. Me personally, I'm working with Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Sheriff Tony, and his staff. I have Miami Shores, Miami Springs, North Miami Beach, North Miami,
Okay, so
probably about 10.
Very good.
And the 2 biggest sheriff's offices in the southeast United States. So we're going to start doing speed studies with them, working through their procurement and their attorneys. Because in Dade County, a lot of the schools, half of the road belongs to one city and the other half belongs to the other city. So you have to work with both cities. You know, some belongs to the county unincorporated Dade and some belongs to the municipality.
It's shocking, the numbers of speeders in the speed study, it's shocking what a sense of urgency there is in LaBelle in these times in particular. My only other question would be, what's the process to change the times on the sign look like, if he would be responsible for that?
So, if I'm not mistaken, I can only speak about the counties that I know about. I don't know if you guys vote on the school times.
Yeah, so we change the school times, how long does it take the signage to be changed out? And whose responsibility is that?
We will take care of that 100% for the life of the program. So if I get a call and the sheriff says, hey Rich, school changed from 7:15 to 6:45, I'll immediately order the sign. We have contractors all over the state of Florida and they will come up and put the sign out. I can't give you an exact figure, but I would say probably within a week or 2. Those school speed times are so vital to enforcing the law as well as the flashers. Because if you're off on that, the citation is really no good. If somebody's smart and they want to fight it and say, well, the flashers weren't working. And it says when they're flashing. Any judge is going to say dismissed. So, but we take care of all of that. If there's an accident, the sign's taken out, the camera's wiped out, we have a contractor who come out here and put it back up. And like I said, at no point will you ever write a check to Blue Line Solutions. And another great thing about this program is that in the contract, for the 2-year, it's a 2-year contract, which is also negotiable, but in the contract, in lieu of getting money to the sheriff's department, the money can be used for purchases or other programs as so deemed by the sheriff and his or her superintendent, mayor, commission. Example, in Ohio, the sheriff's department wanted 2 F-150s, fully marked with, we call them cages, for the prisoners in the back. And so they got a check for $150,000 because that was their revenue for that month. But what we did was we purchased 2 brand new 100 F-150 vehicles, marked them, striped them with striper, marked them exactly the way they wanted them marked, and we delivered them, and then they got their check. And didn't have to go through procurement, it was just done through the whole process. And that's all in the contract with Blue Line Solutions. So you can use the money for services as well. The sheriff wanted to hire 2 new deputies, he could use that money for that. As long as his bosses approve all of that, obviously. But it's a good program. I'm very excited about it. As a retired chief of police, I think it's going to make a huge difference. And again, the owner of the company, his name is Mark Hutchinson. You can look him up online. He's a retired deputy sheriff. He's also the gentleman that started Click It or Ticket 23 years ago, and that's a huge program. And he's the gentleman that was in charge of it in Georgia. His name is Mark Hutchinson. He's out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He has a great story. The little boy died in his arms because his father went over a bridge. He was drunk and he went head on with a semi speeding, and Mark always said that if he could have stopped that guy or caught him for speeding, he might have saved that little boy's life. And that's how Blue Line Solutions was born 11 years ago. So it's a great story. It's a great mission. We truly believe in what we do. And I'm honored to be here in front of you. Any other questions?
So based on the school board at $12 a citation, based off these numbers right here, if you add them up and you take 30% of that, which is about 3,000 private offenses, that's around $47,000 per year. And you only did this for how long?
5 days.
5 days. That's just a week.
But you think that it will, like, once you have your public relations campaign on this, it'll knock it down by 70%, correct?
Yes.
And then I would love to see the estimate on that to
Sure.
what kind of revenue.
And I can tell you
And
this.
that would be like general fund revenue, right? Like unencumbered.
The great thing about this program, and again, FDOT has to come out with their rules and regulations, but our threshold is 500. So we look for 500 or more speeders a week, and that meets the threshold for the company to come in and do the infrastructure. It takes us longer to get the money back because we're putting up at least $150,000 in these school zones, the signs, the flashers. Another thing too, I'm sorry, but yeah, I could go on and on about this. For the attorney's sake, the cameras that we put up every 35 minutes, the camera self-checks itself. So if there's something wrong with the camera, if the lens is dirty, or if it's turned the wrong way, the camera shuts off. And then it notifies our CNOC center in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and a light blinks, and we all get alerts, and we send a crew within 48 hours to fix that camera. So we know when those cameras go down, because the last thing I want to do is have the sheriff call me and say, hey, Rich, why has this camera been down for a month? That's a big problem. So that's another thing that we do that's pretty cool. We're also doing, and this just came about today as a matter of fact, there's a new company out of New York that we're getting ready to partner with. We're putting up signs in some of the counties. They're a little bit smaller than that white board there, and they have a little camera in them. And as you drive by the sign, the camera sees the driver, and if their seatbelt isn't on, it starts to flash, put your seatbelt on. If the person is on the phone, the camera actually picks up the phone in the person's hand and says, put your phone down.
Sounds a
So
little
we're
bit.
also going to start putting that in Miami-Dade County. You're going to see those coming, and whatever Dade County gets, the sheriff gets.
Yeah, that's a big brother for sure.
You need one that says, get in the right lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Well,
It's pretty interesting.
Thank you.
But yes,
Thank you.
any questions, the sheriff has my number, and thank you very much. It's a pleasure. I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are welcome to stay and hang out for the rest of the meeting if you like, or if you'd like to escape now would be a good time.
I'm going to stick with the sheriff. I stay until the end.
Oh dear.
I won't do that.
All right, we're going to move on and get this meeting going. Mr. Superintendent, do we have any citizen comment tonight?
I have none.
All right, let's move on. Consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda the board member would like pulled to action?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to pull personnel recommendations, item B, and it's stapled here, item M, out-of-state travel request. And then I have questions that don't need to be pulled. But if you have something you want pulled, Mr. Hendry.
Oh, I have questions, but I can, for clarification.
Okay. I think I have one. So, question and clarification?
The interlocal agreement between Hendry County, City of LaBelle, City of Lewiston, and the School Board of Hendry County. I tried to read through it, and there's so many whereases and sections and pages and pages and pages. I was wondering if maybe we could get a little verbal summary of this, because it was very extensive, and I didn't understand it all. I'd like clarification.
Yep. And I'll prepare that, and I can get back to you individually on that. This was something that was statutory that the county was supposed to be doing for several years, and they had realized that they had not done it. And so they put it together, and we edited it out together. We worked with county, we worked with the cities, and they worked with us, and we passed it back and forth. Our attorney went through it and made sure that there was nothing there that would jeopardize the county, but it just kind of outlines responsibilities with regard to everything from the communication, how we hold hearings, how we conduct businesses that involve each other, and how we notify each other and stuff like that.
It's very elaborate.
It is. There's a lot to it, you're right.
I mean, I try to read it and understand.
Right.
I mean, I know I'm a layperson, maybe our attorney here.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can tag on to the superintendent's comments. So basically, state statute requires that every county and school board enters into these agreements with each other. And think of it as an outline of how things are coordinated between all of those parties. It sets forth all of that coordination, how the inner workings of the municipality and the school board interwork. And it's a requirement by Florida statute. So each municipality has to enter into these agreements. It was reviewed by myself, it was reviewed by the city attorney, redlined. We made sure all of each other's changes were seen before it was finalized and adopted.
How many hours did it take you to read that?
Thankfully, I'm a fast reader. It didn't,
Well, that's good.
It didn't take me long, and I have familiarity with these kind of agreements, and most of them say the same thing. So I read it to make sure that it was thorough and matched everything that needs to be in it pursuant to the state statute. I didn't spend 5 hours on it, if that's the concern.
Well, no, I was wondering how long it would take me to thoroughly understand. It would take at least 5 hours.
And it did us.
And I still not necessarily understand it.
We had a good handful of meetings where our staff met with their staff and their staff. We met together, we read aloud, we talked, and we asked questions. And so we did a lot of that before the attorneys, got the chance to pick at it.
Thank you for the clarification.
And I'm sure that's needed in a lot of the larger districts or a lot of the, municipalities that are huge. In the rural districts like this, the county needs something, the sheriff's department needs something, they call Mr. Busey and he handles it. If we need something, he calls the county bar, and so we've kind of been doing it without it. But
It was the good old boy way.
Yeah.
Everybody helped each other,
Right.
and now we put it into words and language, and it just sort of gets buried in there.
Right.
Thank you.
I agree with what he said, it was cumbersome. Would it be possible to maybe get like some cliff notes on it? Like, this is our responsibility without the whereas, just a reference sheet.
I'd be happy to do that.
I don't know if the rest of the board would like that, but I think that would be helpful just to have a quick reference on that one. So I have questions on approval of purchases. We have $53,793 to Glades Media to read daily menus on their live broadcasts. Are one of these broadcasts going to be in Spanish language? Like one of the stations, there's WAFC, WAFZ, and WLMX. Is that going to cover the entirety of the county, and is one of those a Spanish language?
yeah, I don't specifically know. I'll be happy to find out and report back. Typically when they do that, though, they do, especially San Juanita is really good about making sure that it goes in both languages, but I will verify that.
All right, I just want to, I know our population, that would be helpful if we're trying to effectively relay that information. And I want to clarify that it says federal funds, but is that not like our federal program funding, but food service funding?
Yeah, anything to do with food services go through their own, the funds that they collect as a function of the school meal cost.
All right, I know we have a pretty big balance there. It's
Leads.
built up over the years.
Food, you said fund source, where are you seeing? Mine says food service.
So So maybe it changed up. I printed mine out. It
Yeah,
says
but she said funding source said federal.
Federal is,
It did say federal on it somewhere. I saw that.
I may be looking at a different one, but the one that I'm looking at for Glaze Media says food services. Just want to make sure
I'm looking at this sheet.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so food service, all right, just wanted
Okay.
to clarify that. And on the travel request, I actually had somebody call me about it, and I thought it was funny, of the things in the agenda. So it's almost $10,000 for cheerleaders to go to the Miami Dolphin game. And so 21 tickets are for cheerleaders, which would be appropriate, and the remainder would be for staff or parents who want to go. Are those tickets already pre-sold?
And again, I do not know the specifics of that. I'm happy to find out any specific question that you would like on that. What specific question did you have? I'm sorry.
So, it's like over $10,000. I just don't want to get, like, it says we're buying a block of 100 tickets. So my
Are they all
question
accounted
is, do we have the remainder of the 21 for the kids? Yes. But the remainder of them are supposed to be for, well, it said for parents or staff members. And I just don't want to get stuck with $8,000 in tickets to a game that people aren't going to.
Of empty seats.
Yeah.
Okay, are all seats being purchased, being used? Basically, is that your question?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I will certainly find out.
Just assuming that if the parents and staff members purchase it, that money comes back to the district, right? Or to the school fund.
Okay.
So, Ms. Busen, you don't want to move that to an action item, you just wanted to.
I was just like, I wanted to know, like,
Okay.
I wanted clarification on that.
But you do want personnel moved to action?
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion or questions on consent? Seeing none, Mr. Superintendent, I'll have you recommend consent agenda.
I recommend approval of the balance of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Vasquez and a second by Mr. Sandberg. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda carries. Moving on, action items. Action item A, Capital Solutions LLC Legislative and Administrative Consultants. Mr. Superintendent, do I have your recommendation?
Yes, to give you just a little bit of background, this is a stem off of our new LaBelle High School that we are in the process of securing. Capital Solutions is basically a lobby group. Mr. Bell is a lobbyist that is very well versed with special facility funding as well as special projects through school boards. I'll remind you that this is a $90.6 million request that we are moving through the state. There are a lot of opportunity for these to get derailed. There are other state agencies that will be seeking the governor's funding. There are folks that will try to rework how it is appropriated through the process, and that is huge to us as a district. A good example is oftentimes they may want to stretch it out over a period of 3 years of payments or even longer sometime. And as we get those payments, that is longer that we have to build our school. And so what we obviously want to do is a shorter distribution period where we can build our school faster and get students into it faster and do our program faster. The purpose of this this opportunity with Mr. Bell and Capital Solutions is that they are in Tallahassee, they're in the governor's office, they are in the halls of our state legislators on a daily basis. They're keeping their ears and eyes open. They are keeping their lines of communication open for any changes that may happen, either to handle them or to get us on the phone or get us to Tallahassee so that we can work with them to ensure that the funding stays secured as well as stays on track for what's going to be in the best interest of Hendry County schools. The second piece of this is, and I'll use our neighbors to the north in Okeechobee. They started out their new high school with about a $78 million budget 3.5 years ago. Today, they're well over a $100 million budget. Their original appropriations was for $78 million. And so because of the increase in cost of materials, because of the increased cost of labor and everything else has caused that to grow. If they had not used Capital Solutions because they were appropriated an X amount of dollar, they would have had to decide, where do you want to cut? Do you want to cut back on the band room, the football field, the CTU programs, because you only get an X amount of dollars. So the lobbyist and through Capital Solutions, they were able to secure the funding and go back and get the appropriated difference so that they could move forward and build the school needed because of the inflation that happened. And then lastly, what I would say is, over the last 5 years, no school that has received special facilities funding did not use a said lobbyist to work with them to ensure correct funding, adequate funding, timing of funding to be in the best interest of the district. So, having said that, I recommend your approval of action item 5A, Capital Solutions LLC and administrative consultants.
Second.
A motion by Reverend Brown and a second by Mr. George Baslin. Any further discussion?
What is the life of that contract?
So we put it in there through next summer. However,
A year.
well, but it is roughly for a year.
Renewable.
And on a 30-day notice. And so if we get to where we want to get and we're solid and we know that we're good, we can end in a 30-day notice, a written notice to the company. There are reasons that, again, if it's glaringly obvious that we're secure, we don't have to go past, the day that we know that we're secured. If there are reasons we think that it may need to drag on longer, then we can continue on a monthly basis until we know we get to that point. So to answer your question, it's basically a month by month as needed.
Well, and we're not there. As the legislature is making changes, we're in Hendry County, and we need somebody there, I think, to represent us and know what's going on.
I agree.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Ms. Manning.
So I agree with what the superintendent's saying about the necessity, particularly with the appropriations we're seeking for construction. But this is not what the contract says. And I'm going back to, I believe it was maybe 2019, when the governor and the legislature went wild about municipalities, counties, and school boards hiring lawyers, or not hiring lawyers, sorry, hiring lobbyists to go and with their day-to-day lobbying. And I had to agree with them, the stance that the legislature and the governor's office was taking, because as elected officials, that's our job. That's what we're getting paid for. And so some of the things that I see outlined in here, if this was strictly just for following the appropriation, and it wouldn't feel problematic to me, but this has just a list of things. Including like attending legislative delegation meetings, and there's just lobbying for or against particular bills and amendments, and I think that's broad, and I think that people elected us to have relationships and create relationships in Tallahassee, and that's kind of outsourcing it. It doesn't set a good. I don't like the optics of it, and I also don't want lobbyists up there speaking when they don't live here for our residents. And when I'm looking at the scope of basic administrative and regulatory representation, a lot of these things that are listed in my concerns that I don't like, because once again, I'm okay with using this specifically for the school appropriation, but we have the small district school board coalition with Chris Doolin, we've got Florida School Board Associations, we've got FADS, we've got all these things that we're paying dues to, and I don't think that it would be appropriate to engage a lobbyist to also, an individual lobbyist to go and handle a lot of these issues. They're listed here as Hendry County School Board issues.
Anyone else? Other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, now we move on to our fiscal year 24 final budget hearing. I will open the hearing now. Ms. Cox, would you like to present the rollback rate, millage, and final budget now? Or you have anything to-
Mr. Squillen do, I think that's all in the script. I don't have a presentation for today just because there's so much that has gone on the last couple months, which is tentative budget, the final budget, preparing special revenue fund. You can see the tentative budget to the final budget has increased about $4.1 million. And that was primarily in special revenue. It's just a naturally occurring process that we go through this time of year as more grants come in. You know, they get budgeted, so that's what that biggest difference is. Nothing, major, we talked about being very fortunate to have a prosperous budget the last couple of years and going into this year. But, we're always mindful of the risks that could potentially come down the pipe. And before I wrap up, I do want to give a huge shout out to the finance staff. The summer is the worst or best time of year for us with everything that goes on. Like, we're literally working 24/7 for months on end. So I couldn't go without saying a huge thank you to them because there's just a lot of work that goes into this time of year. So thank you.
All right. Do we have any public comment on the millage, taxes, and final budget? Seeing none, I'm going to close the hearing. Close the public comment period for the final budget. Mr. Superintendent, may I have your recommendation on the millage rate?
Yes, Madam Chairman. I recommend the adoption of the millage levy resolution as follows. The taxing authority is the District School Board of Hendry County. The state rollback rate is 2.8494 mils. The local rollback rate is 2.0238 mils. The total rollback rate increase is 7.81%. I recommend the following millage levies. General operating millage levy, including prior year adjustment, is 3.006 mils. Basic discretionary millage levy for general operating is 0.748 mils. Basic discretionary millage levy for capital outlay is 1.500 mils. Total millage levy for the final budget is 5.254 mils.
Do I have a motion and a vote on the 2023-24 millage levy?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sammerdike and a second by Reverend Brown. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, so in alignment with the tentative budget that I voted against, I like to be consistent. I want to bring forth concerns on this. And, we have, once again, I want to reiterate, one of the most economically challenged populations in the state of Florida. And I enjoyed watching, and one of the concerns, that we've talked about here previously is teacher housing. Teachers can't afford housing. I appreciated the conversation that happened at the last school board meeting. I was able to watch it online where the home sales company, you guys were talking with them and they were just putting the business out there, the facts, and they talked about having a significant decrease in the number of sales month over month. And then one of the things I picked up was that the current base salary of, the majority of our teachers are from the 0 to 10 year range. And so their base salary, even with a favorable debt ratio, is still a very nearly impossible reach for baseline home ownership for the majority of teaching staff. And that's not even taking into consideration the folks that we say that we care about as well, and that's the bus drivers, the custodians, and the secretaries, because they're getting paid even less than our teachers. One of the things, it's also come to my attention that the things that would make that home ownership available to them are more appealing to them, where they could actually write off their taxes, was the Hometowns Heroes funding program, and that funding source has been exhausted already. So I'm looking at, when I look at the taxes as it applies to my homesteaded property, it's not that bad from the school board. It's actually only a couple of dollars more, but I'm not the only player in the game here. And when you're looking at folks that we've asked to invest in our community and provide rental properties, which is the feasible market for the majority of our staff, these are the people who are going to be absorbing and passing along these increases. you know, we have record inflation in this country. It's increasing the cost of necessities. Homes across America, homes across Hendry County are tightening their belts for energy costs. Electricity, gas today, I put gas in my car for $3.87 a gallon in Clewiston. Painful. Food, healthcare, as evidenced, and insurance as evidenced, you know, as a district by what we are doing with looking at self-insured to try to save money because that is so expensive out of people's pockets every single day. This is happening. And I think to not at least go to the rollback rate is tone deaf to our constituency. I don't know if you folks, and I can't even believe I'm like using this as a reference, but there's a song that just skyrocketed. It's a bluegrass song. Like bluegrass isn't typically a popular genre. And this song, this Richmond, north of Richmond, has just skyrocketed in the charts. And it's a song about everyday folks' struggle and to financially survive while government is growing and taxing everyday people into poverty. And it's popular, it's become popular because it broadly resonates with people. And, you know, I think when I look at tax, I pulled out all my my tax notices today. People in Port LaBelle are going to be getting an increase in their MSBU for street lighting. Mid-County MSBU is going to be $10 an acre. North LaBelle MSBU $20 an acre. Country Village is going to be another $300 a property. Phillips Road MSBU is $100 to $300 a property. In Clewiston, that non-ad valorem for the special fire assessment, you've got at $116 a property for a single-family home or a mobile home, and then once again the businesses that we ask to support us, I mean they're picking up a huge portion of that. And I just think that, you know, that being considered, we have to think about the economic viability of your decisions and in the county and how that affects the people, because, you know, we sit here and once again talk about how poverty negatively affects children. It negatively affects our staff, and to raise their taxes on them and raise their cost of living on them through taxes, it doesn't sit well with my soul. And and particularly raising taxes when I went back to our strategic plan. Because sometimes I'm like, maybe I just get fired up in my feelings and my political beliefs, and I get a little hardcore here. And so I said, maybe I was hoping I was going to talk myself down off of a ledge, but we're increasing taxes on people for the school district, and we are in pretty darn good shape. Our strategic plan that we want to meet or exceed a 6% unassigned fund balance, well, we're knocking it out of the park. We have 17%. But on the other hand, our outcomes, what people are paying us to do, educate kids, our benchmark, we wanted to move our ELA from 41 to 60%, and it's gone backwards to 39. We wanted our math to go from 44 to 70%, and it's gone backwards to 37. I just have a hard time with the economics on it and the outcomes, the return on investments for what our taxpayers are paying us to do to support a tax increase.
Any further discussion? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a 4-1 vote. Please stand. Superintendent?
As superintendent, recommend approval of the 2023-2024 final budget in the following amounts. Fund 1, general account, $138,499,630. Fund 2, debt service, $590,116. Fund 3, capital projects, $18,582,123. Fund 4, special revenues of $39,889,814. Fund 7, Internal Services, $868,640, for a total budget of $198,430,323.
Do I have a motion on the 2023-24 final budget approval?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Sammerdike and a second by Mr. Gosselin. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I just won't say it again, but echo my comments about the return on investment and the outcomes of what we have budgeted previously. And I can just echo that for this action item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Therefore, one vote, Ms. Houston dissenting. This time, I will close the budget hearing and we will proceed back to the regular agenda. Action item C, School Board of Hendry County Altria Settlement, Jewel. Mr. Superintendent, with your recommendation.
Yes, I believe y'all are familiar. We began the Jewel maybe last summer and through our previous attorney and attorney services. And this evening, a new attorney, Ms. Tanner, has an update and a presentation for you on the Jewel settlement.
I'll keep it brief. You all are aware of the litigation that the school board has been involved in with Jewel and other entities. Earlier this year, the board voted to approve one settlement against Jewel Labs. The only remaining defendant is Altria and related entities. You should have with you in your packet documentation related to that. Recently, counsel for the parties attended court-ordered mediation, and an agreement was made. That litigation announced a global settlement, which encompasses all participating districts, one of which is Hendry. And the school board of Hendry County is eligible to receive $87,105 less attorney's fees and costs. I've been told by that counsel handling the case on a national scale involving all the other districts, it's estimated that the net amount will likely be 37% less than that after you take into account the attorney's fees, the costs, and things of that nature. By my math, it's about $54,917.73 that would go to the board. These are unencumbered funds, meaning it can be used for anything that the board wishes. It doesn't have to be related to vaping or stopping the vaping epidemic, although it's in the plan and the recommendation to do so and use that money for such. But in order to get that monetary reward, all of the participating districts have to approve of the settlement. So before you is the approval of such a settlement. If the board votes to approve it, then the release and other documentation will need to be executed and sent back by November 23rd, 2023. And I'll add that it's that council's recommendation they say strongly recommend that it's accepted. It would be my recommendation as well. I think this is a great offer that would be helpful to the district.
Okay. With that in mind, I recommend approval of action item 5C, the School Board of Hendry County Alteria Settlement with Jewel.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Sammerdike.
No.
Oh, no, by Mr. Gosselin. And a
Sounded
second
like
by
it.
Reverend Brown. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. Thank you, Attorney Madison Tanner. That was fantastic. All right, Mr. Superintendent, do I have your recommendation for action D, personnel recommendation, and Mr. Brown will not be voting on this?
Yes, ma'am. I recommend your favorable consideration and approval of action item 5C, personal recommendations for Chelsea Brown.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Mrs. Houston and a second by Mr. Sammerdike. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That'll be a 4-0 with Mr. Brown abstaining.
Got it.
Too many Bs. All right, personal recommendation for action item E, Mr. Superintendent, under recommendation.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I recommend your approval of action item 5E, personal recommendations for Robin Baskin.
So moved.
Second.
We have a recommendation by Mrs. Houston and a second by Mr. Sammerdike. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0, Mr. Baskin abstaining. And now the new action
approval of action item, makes it F?
Yes.
Action item F, personal, that is the personnel recommendations.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Jocelyn and a second by Dr. Brown. Discussion?
Madam Chair? So what I am looking at right here is the supplement section within the personnel recommendations. And I know a couple years ago, we were looking at near $600,000 in supplements. And that was prior to the 6% raise that we have given staff across the board. And so when I look at these supplements, to me as a board member and to any person on the street who's looking at it, it's not very, there's a few things that I don't feel are very transparent on this. I believe, was it you, Mr. Basquin, that one of the things you were pumped up about was like trying to get a brief description of what in the past?
We did get one, yeah. We got an actual big packet of all the descriptions of what their duties are and everything.
Okay, I don't know, like when the last,
Several years ago.
like, I would like to see an updated description, because I feel like some of these things change back and forth. And so what the expectation are, because we have things, I mean, they're not uniform. Some places have hospitality. What is that? What do you have to do for that supplement? Coaches, what are the expectations? Athletics, facilities, supervision, support, stuff like that. And then because, what we do have listed, is the ratio, which is is multiplied against their base salary for what the individual supplement values would be. And I would like to see the hard dollar amounts for these individual supplements. So if you have your lead school psychologist, instead of seeing that ratio beside it, I want to see the hard dollar amount.
Is Ms. Jordan still here? I thought that was it's in on the pay scale. Most of those are hard dollar amounts. This is just referencing those.
Yes, absolutely.
So what this would require me to do is go back to the pay scale and cross-reference, like when it's brought forth. I mean, and I can do it, but I think it would be helpful for the sake of transparency, to include that here with the supplements, because that's what people are going to look at. That's what I looked at here. I didn't go back and think about, let me go back to the pay scale and do that. I wanted to see when I see the supplements, I want to see hospitality, the name hospitality, and the dollar value for the sake of transparency. Because I don't even know, honestly, how much by looking at this packet, how much I'm approving and where, I would be voting on, or how much, because the salary increases, and really what they're supposed to be doing for that, because I don't think that's been updated in a while.
I'm sorry, say that last part again?
The updates for they're not like a full-blown job description. I mean, I'm not looking for anything like that in depth, but what is media as a school supplement? Brief, just in charge of posting to the social media accounts, contact with the newspaper, and on a weekly basis. Something like brief like that, but when you see it, you know it. I want to know what hospitality is. And how much are we paying somebody for hospitality? What is hospitality? I mean, I know what, the definition of it, but how does it, apply, and is it necessary in a school setting? And that would help tremendously in the decision-making process.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
All right, we're going to have a 3-0 with Ms. Gleason dissenting. For the record, Reverend Brown had a family/work emergency and had to leave at 6:52. All right, board member business.
We didn't get out of state travel.
Oh, I thought you said you were pulling that.
Is that one being pulled?
I thought Well, was it travel requests about the cheerleaders that you wanted?
No, that was the question. It was item, so it's under the staple, item M that requested to be the action
Oh, it's on
item.
this page. Okay, I'm sorry, then, action item, this will be G. Out-of-state travel request, Avid District Leadership Training 5. Mr. Superintendent, do I have your recommendation?
Yes, I recommend approval of action item 5G, the out-of-state travel request for Avid District Leadership Training.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Maslin and a second by Mr. Samerbank. Discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so I got out my district calendar and I have a lot of questions here. It says 4 district leaders. Who's the district leaders?
Mr. Sanchez and
Dr. Staley.
That's 3.
The 3 of us plus Dr. Staley.
Okay. All right, so this is during a student day, one full student day in Nashville, and the second day is during a half-day professional development day. That is supposed to be for the benefit of, providing ongoing professional development to help us meet our academic goals as is stated in the strategic plan. What are, and there's some things I've just been seeing, I'm kind of fired up about out-of-state travel right now. How long have we been using Avid?
And I'll an exact name or an exact time, I don't know, but I know that we have been using Avid for quite some time. The strategies that Avid's embedding in the schools and in the classrooms today is phenomenal. They're through secondary and some of the elementary schools. They're doing Avid walks or Avid cross checks, check for learnings, and the best management practices that are being instituted as a result of the last 2 summers and conferences like these are having a profound impact on learning gains. I don't know the exact amount of time that we've had it.
But we've been doing it for like several years, a significant amount of time. It's not something we've just been doing for a couple years and we're waiting to see how the outcomes shake out. So I've noticed schools, like before it was like a Leader in Me school, or it was an Avid school, or it was the houses, I think it was Ron Clark. Now I'm seeing like hybrid models here. So we got a Leader in Me and a Ron Clark school. We're like doing all this stuff at once. Which, you say 5 of our schools are Avid schools. Which ones are those?
See, the 4 secondary schools and Central, I believe.
Okay, I'm looking at the state data report provided by the district, and on those, I'm not really excited about the outcomes there. So, what are the deliverables? What is the anticipated outcomes from this trip?
Are there specific things in this trip y'all would like to address?
It's to basically put in the infrastructure district-wide to properly support the Avid implementation with fidelity at each of those 5 schools.
That hasn't been done before?
It also ties to the MTSS model at secondary. We're trying to utilize some of the data from that to tie into Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 interventions. And so as leaders going to learn more about that process and how to make that connection happen, that's part of Avid is new to me. So for my role in supporting that in the district, I've been to one conference over the summer, and to see how to take that and connect it across elementary, secondary, and through the MTSS process. That's my involvement in that, and I'm looking forward to learning how to support that and make sure it's happening.
When was the last time the leadership, was it May? When was it? It was a recent leadership trip to Avid?
Over the past summer.
Over the summer? Okay. All right, thank you.
I've got a question on that as long as we're on that. We're talking every week, or every school board meeting, we have a recognition at the beginning. We've spent a lot of money on Avid. When I talk to the teachers and go into the classrooms, the teachers seem to really like The Leader in Me is another program that we've spent some money on. But it seems to have good buy-in within the teachers and the staff and so forth. But as part of our recognitions, we're spending this money, but I think like Ms. Busen said, so where's the value in it? I think if we're gonna spend money for people to go to these, they should come back and report, hey, while I was here, this is what we accomplished and this is what we got out of it. And this is a good reason why you sent me. So there's no reason that when they come back, they shouldn't have to present in our recognition. I'm not talking about a whole hour show, but I'd like to know why we're spending the money and how it benefits us.
Sure, that's easily doable.
Is that how it works? Thank you. And then same with Leader in Me, there's another one that people are really pumped on that.
Yes.
But what happens is we sort of lose track of it up here. And I'd like a short presentation on, and it shouldn't be hard because everybody was pumped on it, so thank you.
All right, all in favor of the out-of-state travel request?
All right.
Any opposed?
Okay.
So we have to bring out. All right, now moving on to board member business. S-chip, self-insurance plan data, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, I believe in front of you, each of you should have gotten a printed copy. This, we went through this roughly 60 to 90 days ago with Mr. Darren Brown, if you remember, and I'm not sure that each one of you did the individual meetings with him or not, but we held meetings to give each one of you individual, basically triage, if you will, of information about our insurance program. This packet tonight, you also have it digitally in your board packet as well. This packet tonight contains the latest data with all of our current numbers in it with regard to our insurance claims, personnel, everything very specific to Hendry County. When we embarked on this, we basically had one main goal, and that was to provide a stable insurance to our employees. Insurance programs should enhance the happiness and health of our employees. And not that Aetna has been horrible, but the exponential cost of year over year has gotten to the point where the premium increase is outgrowing our ability to be able to continue paying for it. This F-SHIP program basically is offering us an opportunity to take ownership of our insurance and then bring it in-house so that we can move to a self-insured model that will allow us to basically operate off of what our own health is and realize the gains that we make or not. All the models that they have run using the data shows that this is an absolute positive move for Hendry County schools, and it will show dividends back into the schools. My goal will be for it just to break even. Again, I think I said this when Darren Brown was here. With the positive economic gain, I think that we should create an insurance fund that grows to where, there's going to be years when we have either high claim cases, for various reasons. And we need to be able to sustain that as a self-insured model, not just fund what we fund on a monthly basis. So tonight, I'm asking for no direction at all. I'm simply letting you know that you have the latest data in front of you. Next board meeting on September 19th, we will ask you to vote on moving to the self-insured model. If you would like a special meeting again with Mr. Bryant, he has made himself available, and if you'll reach out to me, then we will secure those and organize those and set those up for you. If you have other information you would like from us, we're happy to get that. But when we come back to that meeting, we're going to ask for a direction from you on September 19th to give us time to make that change. If that's the direction that the board votes to go, we need time to make the change and set that model up so that we can move in that direction before our date of December 30th. So again, tonight, no direction asked, FYI only kind of preempting you for the next meeting, we will be asking for a vote.
I would like a meeting.
Okay?
I don't know what you have to do with individually.
Yes, yeah, we'll do those individually, and we're good to do that. And so we'll reach out with a date like we did last time, and we'll stagger them, and we'll go through those. Ms. Busen?
Please.
And Mr. Samerdike? And if you,
I'm good with my last meeting.
okay,
I had a meeting with him, but you know, it's not bad to have a refresher.
Okay.
Just to make sure.
Okay.
Uh,
and I'll reach out to Reverend Brown and ask him if he would like one as well. Okay, and so between now, it'll probably be, I suspect, one day next week, because that would get us right up to the meeting.
yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Madam Attorney, do you have any?
No, go ahead, yeah, I'll wait my
So
turn.
we can just flip this.
No, you're good.
Board member back, but-
You're good.
Madam Attorney, do you have any business tonight?
It's no official business, I just wanted to mention to the board that I'm talking to the same attorneys that were involved in the Jewel litigation. There may be a potential for another litigation that the district can be a part of. I'm hoping that by the next board meeting, I can give you more information on that in a packet for discussion, but just something to think about for the next meeting.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, and again, these are just two FYIs. We intend to launch 2 RFPs over the next 30 days. We did launch back in late in the school year, maybe mid-spring, for some of the properties. If you remember, we brought some properties before you, and we do have the option, and we did get one real estate person, broker, that did reply back to that, and that is still an option and on the table. However, we have gotten a little bit of inquiry since our last board meeting about using some of the property for potential teacher housing with some type of public-private partnership. And so what we would like to do is to launch an RFP to see what type of interest we could have with the green spaces that we have to do some sort of housing opportunity there. So again, that costs us nothing. It just puts more options on the table for how we can use the resources that we have. The other one that I'm letting you know about as well, we also intend to launch an RFP for the renovation of CYDA facilities, which is next door to this footprint that we're on today, into an IPK VPK, and making sure that we have, hopefully, that be able to open doors for that at the beginning of school next year. So again, we expect to do an RFP for both of those over the next 30 days or less. Just letting you know. If you have any specific questions or want to know anything, please let me know. That's all.
So that would be moving our IPK and PPKs on the opposite side to one side.
Correct.
Spread, I like that.
Yeah, we'll wind up that way in LaBelle once we matriculate the
Right,
schools.
right. That'll be a good pilot, see how it works.
Yes.
Okay, I have no board member business tonight, Mr. Bassler.
Just a couple of things. I do want to mention that just never ceases to amaze me at the generosity of our communities. You know, donations come in, people just still, they can't give enough, it seems like. So, you know, I like to recognize people that do that because it just is, you can never say it enough. You know, too many times people always want to gripe and you always want to hear the bad. You know, they want the bad to be out there. But I just want to thank those people that donate and, you know, just tell them it's much appreciated. And then I do want to also thank the staff for continuing with permanent, looking for subs. You know, we did a training today for permanent subs in our school system. So I just want to thank the district for that and to continue to, yeah, that's what I'm understanding. There was a good turnout for that. So that's phenomenal. You know, I appreciate that. We're still trying to make sure we're doing everything we can to put people in the classrooms to educate these babies.
Yes.
So that was it. Thank you.
Mr. Saturday?
Yeah, well, we covered a couple of things about the AVID and the leader in me. Those are things I was just saving for board member business. The other thing is, last week or 2 weeks ago now, the Port LaBelle utility system, water system had a leak. And we had to go to boil water at warning. And so we have 1,500, almost 1,500 students at the high school. We had 2 other, an elementary school and a middle school that didn't have drinking water available. And that was handled, a lot of that was handled through Sodexo. They brought in a lot, tons, literally tons of water, so that students could stay there, they could get nourished. And I just wanted to recognize that effort there. And you never know when something like that's going to break. Suddenly, you don't have water anymore for 3 of our schools. And I thought it was handled well. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Gibson?
I missed y'all last week. I hated being at home. But, so, yes, I have a few things. I want to say I'm very excited. I think a lot of folks in this particular neighborhood will be excited at the prospect of renovating CYDA for aesthetic reasons, outside of, obviously, the benefit of having that particular group of kids all in one spot. And so I think that's going to be a positive for the community. So my first thing is in my travels and the things that I do, I know a lot of people in Tallahassee, and I was just ripping on lobbyists, but I actually have a few that's a friend. And in the discussions about my angst with the Digital Academy of Florida, they reached out and were, conveyed my angst about the unintended consequences of driving school choice scholarship funding in Hendry County to the lowest in the state because of FTE and the impact of hosting. And I've received every indication from them that they want to work together to fix that in a way that was not going to be detrimental to the Hendry County School District. And they told me that I could expect a meeting mid-September. And I don't know, of course it would go through the superintendent's office. I don't know where we're at on that.
Is that the one that I've reached out to you about as well? I'm not sure if there's a different meeting or not. We're just reaching out through the DAOF Stride Company, and we're going to have a meeting. We've got the date set, and we're working on the time slots now, and we'll reach out to you between now and Thursday, I suspect, to get those solidified.
Okay, perfect. I would like to ask for an update on the strategic plan. I went through trying to get myself under control, and so I was coming from a place of objective commenting and decision making, and there were areas that I could not. I didn't have the information. It wasn't easy for me to find online. Some things are for the DOE website, some things are not. But I know you think that I'm negative Nancy over here, but in my research, I found something that's amazing because I like to be number one. I love winning. And one of our metrics there was increasing our kindergarten readiness rate. And so when I was looking, like we have from 51 to 66%, but then when I was looking, 66% is the highest in the state. And that is a testament. I know Barbara Mundy wanted to hurt me and the task force, and the task force made a lot of people mad in Hendry County, private VPK providers, about holding them accountable for those kindergarten readiness outcomes. And Dr. Mundy heard our plea, and that's when you saw a major expansion in the district VPKs. And having such a high needs population with highly qualified teachers, like we're number one in the state for kindergarten readiness rates. And I think that's pretty amazing. So super psyched about that. I don't know if you guys got the email today that says the Florida Attorney General declares House Bill 1557 does not apply to school libraries, from the Florida Freedom to Read Project. And some folks at DOE, I reached out on it because it was talking about putting things that I know in statute were not supposed to be in your school libraries. And as dictated in House Bill 7 and House Bill 1069. And essentially, we've determined it's like a scare tactic to push their agenda. And what they're discussing or referencing is House Bill 1557 regarding media specialist trainings, but that we don't have to make any changes to what we're doing. And then that got me thinking about where could I, as a school board member, get a list of our library inventories? Does the district have that? Is there an online place for to find that?
Yeah, they're embedded in each of the online sites. So on the district website, you can get those there. You go to each school, and Mr. Adams and his staff has got them all now.
Okay, I'll try to look that up again. I did not see that.
For the elementaries, it's not required for the secondaries.
Okay.
So we've not done the secondaries yet.
All right. And then So, as I was home last week and I watched the board meeting, I was intrigued by some comments that were made regarding out-of-state summer professional developments that a couple of our schools attended, and the fact they were referenced to as premier teacher professional development opportunities. So, I actually got in a Twitter fight with some of these people, so I wanted to know, what are these people about? Who's supporting them? When I saw that the State Board of Education, they're like endorsed by the State Board of Education of Illinois, red flag goes up, I call the Florida Department of Education. To just glean some perspective. And, we sent folks out to Dallas, Texas, and it cost taxpayers nearly $36,000, which is close to the average household median income. And the representation of that experience on this social media by the attendees, as well as their own corporate website, was throwing, like I said, a lot of red flags for me. I heard it was referenced about that they thought it was a great idea about, that they're glad the teachers had fun. That's always a good thing, if you can incorporate professional development, learning, and fun. But one of the things that really blew me away was a dance. And I don't know if I'm just getting older and saltier by the day, but when I'm looking at these outcomes, and I realize that these outcomes this is like life or death for these kids. If academic achievement, academic proficiency is the universal key to prosperity and opportunity, regardless of race and religion. And then, I fired up about the outcomes. And frankly, I would have been very upset if I saw my child and teacher dancing to a song titled Touch My Body. Particularly if I knew my kid was one of the 61% who weren't rated proficiently. And I just don't think that's appropriate. And and then, some other things that were some key takeaways that was actually the Hendry County School District was tagged in, where they're saying have a failabration for yourself. Man, that's tough. That's tough. I think the messaging, we have to look very carefully when we're approving these things going forward, because the message as a parent and as a taxpayer is, be invested in your students. When you're winning, the students are winning too. And they were even posting things about quotes for Jay-Z. Jay-Z's a rapper who admits that he was a drug dealer. This is not appropriate. And that just fired me up. It flew all over me. So, but I do want to end the evening on a positive note. And this is a positive, this is a wonderful note. So, the Hendry County Public School Foundation brought an opportunity forward for a grant that would provide resources to build a resiliency program within the district. We brought it to Kim Stitt because if you guys remember, she brought her Triqueta teens here. These were kids who were on that verge, academically challenged, behavioral problems, and I didn't necessarily understand how she was going to get from where they were to her goal, but her outcomes have been absolutely amazing. These kids are all graduating, their behavior has just straightened up, it's powerful. So I took her this grant opportunity, and long story short, Kim wrote an ambitious grant that was laser aligned to the Florida Department of Education's resiliency standards, and it centers on the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I'm super excited to announce that we won a $70,000 grant to provide these much necessary resources and opportunities to students at both Closton High School and LaBelle High School.
That is good.
That is fantastic,
Fantastic.
isn't it? And so it'll have peer mentorship, pre-approved adult mentorship components, and I think it's going to be a positive for kids.
Kim Stitt is a hard worker.
Man, So, and I want to brag on her because, you know, she's a perfectionist, and she sent it to me, and I said, let me just get some professional feedback on it. And when I sent it for professional feedback, they were so excited. They were like, this is amazing. Like, I knew from the professional feedback that we were going to get the grant. I didn't know if we were going to get the full 70%, but we did. And so that's a good thing for the district, a good thing for kids. And with that, I conclude my comments.
Thank you.